My 20th birthday came with a completely unexpected gift from my dad, an international trip, something we had dreamed of for years. But this wasn't just any vacation, it held a deep, emotional meaning for me. After losing my mother when I was 7, my dad and I found comfort in watching Russian films together, a tradition born from my mom's passion for Russian cinema and culture. Those vibrant, colorful movies helped us cope with the immense loss of her sudden death from a brain aneurysm at just 36. My mom's love for Russian films was a constant presence during my childhood, and my dad had always promised that one day we'd visit Russia to honor her memory. That promise seemed like a distant hope until my birthday, when my dad revealed we were finally making the trip, just the two of us. It was our chance to reconnect and celebrate my mother's legacy, without the complications of my stepmom and stepsister. My stepsister, Ella, had finals, and my stepmom, Mila, was tied up with a big work project. While their absence seemed coincidental, I suspected my dad had planned it this way to avoid the tension that often arose between us. The announcement was a highlight of my birthday celebration, but not everyone was thrilled. After the guests left, I overheard an argument between my dad and Mila. She felt the trip should have been postponed to include everyone, meaning her and Ella. I was secretly relieved that it wasn't. Family vacations with them had always been difficult, and I feared their presence would overshadow the personal significance of this journey. But just a day before our departure, I made a shocking discovery: my passport had been destroyed. It was clear this was no accident but a deliberate act of sabotage by Mila and Ella, driven by jealousy. My dad was furious and heartbroken when he found out, struggling to process the betrayal. We're working to fix the situation, but the sting of their actions lingers. This trip was supposed to be a meaningful tribute to my mom and a chance to strengthen the bond between my dad and me. I'm still hopeful that we'll overcome this setback and fulfill our dream of visiting Russia. Mila and Ella had entered our lives 7 years ago, and at first, everything seemed fine. They were kind, and my dad seemed happy while dating Mila. But after they got married 3 years ago, everything changed. Without warning, they began treating me with rudeness and hostility whenever my dad wasn't around, while acting sweet in front of him. It was confusing and hurtful. As things worsened, I finally talked to my dad about it, leading to a family meeting. Mila and Ella denied any wrongdoing, but I had secretly recorded one of their particularly cruel conversations. Faced with the evidence, they broke down, trying to twist the situation by claiming they felt alienated because I hadn't fully accepted them. That wasn't true. I had tried, but their behavior made it impossible. My dad was torn because Mila was the first woman he had truly loved since my mom's death. He begged us to try to make it work, not wanting to be caught in the middle. For his sake, I agreed to keep the peace. Since then, Mila and Ella mostly ignored me when he wasn't around, which, while painful, was better than open conflict. We maintained this fragile truce for my dad, even though our issues were far from resolved. Their latest stunt, destroying my passport, only confirmed how far they were willing to go. This trip to Russia was meant to honor my mother's memory, and my dad had specifically wanted it to be just the two of us. Mila and Ella were angry about being left out, but given our strained relationship, it was for the best. They preferred relaxing vacations, while my dad and I wanted to explore and immerse ourselves in the culture, something we wouldn't have been able to do with them there. Ironically, they'd often taken trips without us, choosing their own getaways. The only difference this time was the destination and duration: Russia, for 15 days. Considering the significance of the trip, I thought it was a reasonable decision. In summary, while the dynamics in our blended family remain tense, my father has vowed to address these issues after our trip. For now, our priority is focusing on the upcoming journey to Russia, a long-awaited tribute to my mother's memory. As the trip drew closer, I was filled with excitement. 4 days, I had been eagerly preparing for the journey, packing my bags and organizing everything. With just a day left before departure, my spirits were high, but what should have been a moment of pure joy quickly turned into a nightmare. That evening, Mila and Ella, my stepmom and stepsister, did the unthinkable. They destroyed my passport. Around 7 p.m., while double-checking my travel documents, I realized my passport was missing. Panic set in as I tore through the house, searching every possible place it could be. After almost an hour of frantic searching, Mila and Ella walked into my room with feigned concern, asking if I had misplaced something. I hesitantly told them about the missing passport, feeling suspicious of their unusual interest. Without a hint of remorse, Mila tossed what was left of it onto my bed, a charred, mangled mess that was completely unusable. The satisfaction on their faces as they watched me process the scene was chilling. I felt a wave of shock and numbness, but I refused to let them see me break. After they left, I locked myself in my room, allowing myself a few moments to cry, overwhelmed by the betrayal. At that time, my dad was out running last-minute errands for the trip. I immediately texted him, explaining what had happened and sending him a picture of the destroyed passport. He rushed home, and as soon as he arrived, I could hear his confrontation with Mila and Ella. His anger was unmistakable as he demanded an explanation. They weakly tried to claim that the passport had accidentally caught fire from a discarded cigarette, a blatant lie, as I don't smoke. As the argument intensified downstairs, I decided to join them. My presence seemed to push my dad to make a decisive move. He retrieved a set of documents from his office and handed them to Ella. Her face turned pale as she realized what they were, her student loan papers, which my dad had agreed to co-sign for her college tuition. Without a second thought, he tore them up in front of her. The shock on her face was evident as she understood the gravity of her actions. In that moment, my father made it clear that enough was enough. He ordered Mila and Ella to leave our house. Despite their desperate pleas for forgiveness, he remained firm. Their actions had crossed an unforgivable line, and there was no turning back. The trip may have been delayed, but their punishment was swift and final. This time, they learned the hard way that their actions had consequences that would follow them far beyond the destroyed passport. After leaving the house, Ella and Mila began bombarding me with messages, pleading for forgiveness. Ella, particularly remorseful, begged me to convince my dad to reconsider co-signing her student loan, promising to make amends for what she'd done. She argued that my dad, with his stable financial standing, could manage the loan payments better than her own mother. Despite their apologies, they claimed ignorance of the consequences of their actions, insisting they felt excluded and less a part of the family. I did respond to one of their messages, reminding them that they, too, had taken many mother-daughter trips, questioning why it was unfair for me to have a similar experience with my dad, especially when it involved honoring my late mother. Ella's father was still in her life, albeit in a limited capacity, whereas I lost my mother years ago, and this trip was meant to honor her memory. It felt wrong for Ella to ask for my help after what she had done, and I believed the consequences she was facing were justified. She had no right to ask for forgiveness or favors from me. Even so, I hesitated to block her completely. A part of me felt guilty, wondering if excluding them from our 15-day trip to Russia was unfair, especially since their outings were short and local. This made me second-guess whether our decision to go without them was truly justified. Before this incident, we hadn't planned to involve the police. We didn't want to escalate a family matter to that level, though their actions were clearly malicious. As for my life, I had taken a gap year after high school to explore my interests, particularly journalism, and I was preparing to start college soon. Thankfully, my grandparents had set up a college fund for me, so financial concerns weren't an issue on my end. Unlike for Ella, whose college future was uncertain due to her parents' disagreements about who should bear the financial responsibility. Unfortunately, my dad and I had to cancel our trip to Russia since I no longer had my passport. Instead, we spent the day at home, watching old films that brought us comfort in the past. It helped lift my spirits. After reflecting deeply, influenced by my grief over my mom and the emotional weight it carried, I decided to block Ella and Mila. I realized I didn't owe them my forgiveness, and it was more important to protect my peace and focus on healing from the chaos they had caused. This experience taught me the importance of setting boundaries and not letting guilt influence my decisions, especially in family matters tainted by unresolved grief and betrayal. Since then, I have blocked Mila and Ella. They've tried to reach out several times, but I refuse to respond. Their betrayal was too deep, and I won't let them think their apologies can erase the pain they caused. They need to face the consequences of their actions. Today, something significant happened. My dad came home from work and told me he had filed for divorce. This led to a much-needed conversation between us. We talked about how things had changed with Mila and Ella after the wedding and how their behavior had completely shifted. Rather than feeling like part of a family, I was treated like an outsider. My dad admitted he had been selfish, often prioritizing his own needs, but he realized staying with Mila wasn't healthy for any of us. Despite his feelings for her, it became clear that she never truly accepted me as part of her family. He suspected she felt threatened by our bond and feared she and Ella would always come second. This insecurity likely fueled their resentment and the way they treated me. He admitted that while he noticed the signs, he initially ignored them because he thought no one was getting hurt, but after the passport incident, he couldn't overlook their behavior anymore. We weren't a real family, we were just pretending. It was time to end it. He had spoken to a lawyer and officially started the divorce process. He apologized for the pain his choices had caused, and we shared a long, meaningful hug. Some might question his decision, But to me, he has always been a good father. Yes, he made mistakes, but he has done so much right by me. I've chosen to forgive him because the love and support he's given me outweigh any missteps. I love him deeply and always will. I believe Mila received the divorce papers today. My dad came home early, and he's been in his office on the phone, raising his voice a few times. I'm not sure what's happening, but I plan to check on him once he's done. Whatever is unfolding, it's another step in reshaping our lives and moving toward a more peaceful, honest future. Since my dad filed for divorce 5 days ago, I've been anxious about the fallout. Given his behavior today, I'm sure Mila was served with the papers, and that's why he's been acting out of sorts. I haven't heard from Mila or Ella since I blocked them, and they haven't tried to contact me in any other way. It's probably for the best because I still have a lot of emotions tied to everything that's happened. We had planned to go to Russia, but now that trip will have to wait until after the divorce is finalized. With college starting in a few months, I'm unsure when we'll find the time, but I'm hopeful we'll get there eventually. A few hours ago, my dad finally emerged from his office and explained why he had been yelling on the phone. Apparently, Mila had called him, threatening to make up lies to sabotage the divorce and ruin him. Her call caught him off guard while he was at work, so he hadn't managed to record her threats. However, once he got home, he was ready. He recorded their next conversation, warning her that if she tried to defame him, he would have evidence to expose her false claims. His response seemed to intimidate her. My dad believes he handled the situation well and assured me that once the divorce is over, we're definitely going to Russia. He made that promise, and I trust him to keep it. I just hope the divorce proceedings move forward without much trouble from Mila, especially since I still have proof of her and her daughter's actions against me. It's crucial they don't try to escalate things. Now, a couple of weeks after the divorce was finalized, everything feels lighter. My dad handled it brilliantly, and Mila walked away with nothing from us in the settlement, which is exactly how it should have been. We kept what was rightfully ours, and she didn't get the large settlement she had pushed for, including alimony and child support. With that behind us, my dad and I are finally preparing for our long-awaited trip to Russia. I've got my new passport, and everything is falling into place. I'm beyond excited about the trip and incredibly relieved with how things turned out. It's a fresh start, and I couldn't be happier.